I couldn't believe this when I saw it, and they deleted it. But did you guys see the poll that Dan Le Batard put up yesterday in the wake of Jonathan Isaac, again, one of the players who was standing for the national anthem in the NBA, one of the few who was willing to stand for the national anthem? Dan Le Batard's show at ESPN put up a poll question. Is it funny that the guy who refused to kneel immediately blew out his knee? That's where we are. That's where we are in sports media today, particularly if you work at ESPN. You put up a poll because there's so little intellectual diversity that's allowed to exist at ESPN and the sports media today, where you think it's funny that a guy who stood for the national anthem blew out his knee. That's what ESPN does. And what's crazy about this, and look, I don't particularly, you guys know I don't buy into cancel culture or anything of that nature, but that is a poll that if it were done, if Colin Kaepernick had blown out his knee after kneeling, and Dan Le Batard had put up the same poll, is it funny that Colin Kaepernick blew out his knee after kneeling, after refusing to stand for the national anthem? He would have gotten fired. ESPN would not have allowed that poll to go out. Their universe would have reacted with outrage, and they would have insisted that Dan Le Batard be fired. A lot of people in sports media at ESPN and also in the Twitter mob. But when a guy stands for the national anthem, you are allowed to ridicule him now to the high heavens. It's one of the craziest things I have ever seen. Danny G, is there anything more clear on the double standard there than the fact that, first of all, Le Batard wouldn't even think of putting that poll up if something bad happened to Colin Kaepernick, but it's the first thing he thinks to do when something bad happens to Jonathan Isaac.
Well, even a lot of his fans and listeners who were on Twitter yesterday, their first comments were that when they were listening to it live as he was putting the poll up, they were cringing because they knew he was going to get in trouble. So a lot of people's first thoughts were he wanted another week off. It's interesting because didn't you just last week at Outkick.com actually give him some praise?
Whitlock did.
Yeah,
Whitlock wrote a big
yes.
piece about the fact that, look, the courageous thing to do now, this is how upside down our world has become. The bravest and most courageous thing you can do if you are an athlete right now is to stand for the national anthem, because all of the sheep out there are kneeling in an effort to get no attention and hopefully avoid being criticized in any way on social media. So by far, the most courageous thing you can do is decide to stand for the national anthem. And that's how upside down our world has become, that now Colin Kaepernick and the kneeling thing is not in any way rebellious because everybody's doing it. It's actually the least brave thing you can do. And the newest brave thing to do is to stand for the anthem. And so, yeah, we talked about it with Jonathan Isaac and how upside down that's become so quickly in the world of sports. And a guy has the bravery and courage to do that, and then he tears his ACL, and at ESPN, they point to him and they laugh. Regardless of what your political beliefs are, tearing your ACL as a point of humor is a tough one to pull off. Ha ha, you got hurt competing in athletics. I mean, that's effectively what ESPN is doing. But even if you take it a step further, they would have never said that about Colin Kaepernick or anyone else who kneeled if they had immediately gotten hurt. And look, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Again, I don't believe in cancel culture. I think we should have a marketplace of ideas. You share your opinion, I'll share mine. We'll see who has the better argument. That's what America stands for. That's how the First Amendment works, which, unlike a lot of NBA players, I believe in. Remember LeBron said, that's one of the bad things about the First Amendment when he was defending China. But to me, it's just indicative of how broken the marketplace of ideas is at ESPN that Dan Le Batard even thinks hey, let's make fun of the kid who is standing for the national anthem and tore his ACL. It's crazy. Dub, did you see this story prior to me just bringing it up?
Yeah, I did see it. And one thing that's striking to me is, I mean, that show has like 5 or 6 people on it. So you would think
somebody would have been like, hey, maybe this is a bad idea.
Yeah, but like not one person there was thinking to themselves, yeah, I don't know if we should post this. There's going to be some serious backlash on this.
They deleted the poll, by the way, and Batard apologized for it. But I'm less interested in the poll being deleted and the apology than the blatant double standard that it continues to reinforce, which is if you are not uber woke, then ESPN comes for you and they are policing what you can believe. And that's what's going on in the country at large. But I think sports media has become an interesting prism through which to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. The double standard is just undeniable at this point. There's really no argument against it. So that was just very, very poor judgment. I think Danny G might be onto something because I know his show got knocked down from 3 to 2 hours, so maybe he's just like, screw it, I just want to take another week off.
Or maybe he just wants to get fired.
Next week, his show will be down to 1 hour.
Yeah, maybe they're going to take another one of his hours of his program. I mean, look, that would actually be pretty entertaining radio. If I was just trying to get fired off of the show and I had to keep coming in and doing all sorts of ridiculous stuff, but it had to be like unintentional in order for me to get paid out. Yeah, that would actually be a really funny way to do radio. I want to get paid out for the remainder of my contract, but I can't do something that's so bad where they're just like, yeah, you're fired and you don't get any more of your money. But I want to do something just bad enough to get them to fire me so they have to pay me out. Maybe that's what Levitard's trying to do. Maybe he's trying. I mean, they took away an hour of his program. They took him off the air in L.A., I think, which is like, just basically if you do national radio, it's like your boss is just standing in front of you and slapping you in the face. So maybe he is just hoping to get fired. And get fired, it's like the difference between for cause and without cause. Without real cause, you have to get paid out. If like you're a coach, you don't want to get fired for NCAA violations. You want to get fired for just not winning enough games because then you get your whole contract paid out. But if you violate rules that are so bad that you don't get paid out, Eddie, did you see this prior to me bringing it up? How crazy is this?
I did, and I was pretty sickened by it, to be honest with you. I know a lot of the folks over there like to think of themselves as enlightened and compassionate, and that certainly wasn't the case with that idea to put that poll out there.
Is there any doubt that if it's Colin Kaepernick and that poll goes up, first of all, there's mass outrage. It's like, oh my God, what's going on? And the fact that they would never even think to put that up.
I don't think there's any question they would never even consider putting that up in that situation.
And that's one reason, by the way, that our audience is surging. And by the way, I want to give props. I'm glad I thought about this. Mike Golick has left. And I think, is Trey Wingo off that show in the morning at ESPN now too?
Yes.
So they haven't put in the replacement guys yet, but they are, those guys are off. Our audience is going to explode. Look, you know when things are going well with your show is when the other show that's on at the same time as you, it's like we're Alabama and Auburn, and the other team keeps scrambling to try to find a replacement because you're getting your ass kicked all the time. That's what's going on with ESPN Radio. So when we first started, they had Golick and they had Greenberg, the Mike and Mike show. And then they decided, Greenberg, that he didn't want to do radio anymore, so they put in Wingo. And now they're replacing Golick and Wingo. I give props to Golick for doing 20-plus years of radio and doing it well. But a lot of you, I feel like, are going to be moving over from ESPN to here because of situations like what Batard just did and because they're firing the most successful people they've ever had in the history of their radio. So we welcome you with open arms here. We're a welcoming group.